Hello and welcome to the Feminine Forecast for the week of November 14th to 20th. The foundation, Taurus full moon and partial lunar eclipse. If you are new to me and my work, I wanted to take a second to introduce myself. I'm Karen Monaco. I'm a mystic and intuitive guide here to help the divine feminine step forward into spiritual mission and confidently express her soul's gifts. And one of the ways I do that is through the weekly forecast. I designed this forecast to be relevant, to be useful, and to be supportive of your spiritual journey and soul's mission. If you love the forecast, please let me know with a like, a comment, a share, or a follow if you don't follow the show yet. And if contributing to the energy exchange feels aligned for you, you can learn more about how to do that down in the show notes. Now, this week in the forecast, I'm going over the energy that's really leading up to November 19th when we have the partial lunar eclipse and the full moon in Taurus. But a few things before we get going. This week's grateful moment is I'm grateful for you, for the listener, the viewer, the reader, for being here, because without you, the Feminine Forecast would really just be me reading cards and having a good time. And you add so much to it. Every time I get a comment, a like, or every time I get an email. I got a lot of emails about shaving legs from last week's forecast. I just get such a lift. It feels so good. And I am so grateful for you. And I'm grateful to all of you who have honored the energy exchange in other ways, not just through comments and likes, but for my clients who sit with me and allow me to be with them on their journey in one-on-one sessions, and the members of Wild Hearted Collective. Y'all get me out of bed in the morning. I love what we have in there. You guys are just amazing. You really are lights in my life. Okay. And speaking of, if you are looking for a circle, if you are looking for other light workers and healers, then definitely consider and explore what I offer in Wild Hearted Collective. It's my monthly membership, a sacred space for the feminine light worker and healer. We laugh a lot in there. We cry. There's no real succinct way to put all of the things that happen in that space, in that circle, but there's spiritual tools that I put out each and every month for you. And then we're getting it done in the Facebook group. I do giveaways. I do actionable steps. We are, like I said, we are doing it. We are getting it done. We are serving. If you haven't already, definitely consider also revisiting past forecasts. I know last week's was pretty popular, my 4 tips to manifesting, and it's going to be useful as you start to follow along and take those steps that I offer. You're going to find that you are showing up with way more love, way more energy and heart, and way less struggle, drama, and hustle. Okay. And I know that because I do it myself. After I release the forecast, I also listen and take my own advice, and it's making things so much better in my life. And my clients have reported sounds so official, but have also shared that they're seeing the impact in theirs. Now, like I mentioned, first slide, second, first couple of seconds of the show, the astrological events that are happening this week, we have a partial lunar eclipse. And eclipses illuminate what we need to look at, what it is in your life that is really calling for you to focus on it and pay some attention to it. Now we pair that with this full moon in Taurus, which is going to highlight for us what isn't built on a solid and secure foundation. So we take those two things and we merge them together, and we just know we are being asked to look at, really invited and called to take a look at our foundation. It might be our financial foundation. It could be taking a look at our relationships. For those of you in business, it might be taking a very honest look at the systems in your business and thinking, considering, are they sustainable? Are they scalable? Are you going to be able to maintain this in the long term? And if the answer is yes, you're going to kind of get that green light from the universe, keep going. And if not, you might get the red light, stop, let's readdress, or the yellow light, slow down and let's tweak. Now, one of the things that is very clear in this week's energy is if you cleared the blocks as suggested in last week's feminine forecast, you may not experience as much of an upheaval during these astrological events. Okay, you don't have to follow the way that I did it, from start to finish, but if you took a look at what it is that's really blocking you from reaching your desires, you are going to find that you are in flow with this eclipse and full moon. And it's not too late to revisit that forecast, to revisit those tips and tools that I offered. That energy is still in play, and it's never too late for you to kind of pick yourself up and get going with it so that you can charge ahead. Now, speaking of charging, I'm going to make a recommendation here. I know we typically put our crystals and our card decks out under the full moon. I don't recommend doing that during an eclipse. And the reason being is that the eclipse doesn't necessarily bring energy in or pour energy in that we want to bring with us. Like I said, it's going to illuminate what you need to take a look at. And it's usually not like take a look at all of these wonderful things that are going on. We should be doing that. We quote unquote should be doing that all along, but it's really illuminating what isn't working or what isn't desirable. So we don't necessarily want to put that into our cards and decks and crystals. Yeah, okay. So I will get off my soapbox now and move on. The decks that I used in this week's forecast are the Triple Goddess Tarot by Jamie Elford and the Magdalene Oracle by Toni Carmine Salerno. And both of these decks are really beautiful. I don't use them as often. Actually, the Magdalene Oracle is like a coffee table deck in my opinion, but I was just really called to it this week. And the cards that came up for us were the Six of Swords in reverse and Perception. So that Six of Swords is typically an indicator of a smooth transition into calmer waters. When we see it in reversed, it notes a couple of things. So, let's go backwards a little bit. The divine feminine really for the past several weeks, and I'm going to actually say like maybe 6 to 12 weeks for some of us, we've been sensing a new chapter about to begin, and Spirit is really indicating that this week, this eclipse season, this full moon is the start of it. But clinging is prolonging our pause. So anything that you're clinging to, anything you're gripping close to you, it needs to be released this week, and the eclipse will highlight it for you. And kind of, if you continue to cling, it's going to kind of rip it out of your hands, if you will. So that you're not stuck in this holding pattern, so that you can fully receive and step into this fresh start and this new beginning. And Spirit is really saying with this Six of Swords, which is so much calmer than, the Eight of Cups, which is moving on, abandoning your desires, kind of marching to greener pastures, but taking the uphill climb towards it. Six of Swords is very much smooth and calm energy. It's like delicious transition, but we're resisting that. And what we're resisting is going to continue. And we want to move forward because this new beginning is a good one. Okay. You're going to want this new chapter to start. Now, looking ahead is kind of what's gotten us stuck. Is a lot of us have been unwilling to let go because we can't see what we're letting go of, we can see what we're letting go of, but we cannot necessarily see clearly what we're walking into. And with this Perception card, Spirit was really saying, it's not what you think. Many are clinging to relationships or former patterns or former beliefs because there's a misinterpretation of what letting go actually means for the long term. So it might mean, maybe you're being called to let go of a certain social circle, and you're kind of afraid because then it's going to mean having to walk solo or walk on your own. And you're nervous about being on your own for, I'm like, what I'm hearing is like, I'm worried about being alone forever. Is this forever? And that's really not what's happening. this is a transition, but there is this energy of you have to let go in order for things to happen. Now, why is this happening? We're seeing these situations from the ego. We're never asked to let go of things that are good for us. We tend to have to let go of things that aren't serving us. But that can still be hard, right? Even if something isn't necessarily healthy for us, it's what we've known. And so it's kind of, we go towards what's known. We go towards what is easier. And it's not always easier to walk into something that we can't see or we can't define. And Spirit's just saying, listen, go and feel into this transition, feel into this new beginning with the heart. And when I did this myself, as I was channeling, it felt so good. I felt all of my resistance start to melt away. And I started to see how what my ego, the story my ego was spinning, was nowhere near what I felt in the heart. When I dropped into the heart, it was that Six of Swords in the upright energy. It was calm and peaceful and exciting. Whereas when I let my ego roll with it, it was fear and anxiety and stress. Okay. So as always, I have a card practice for you, or I have a practice. They're not always card practices to help you move forward, to help you get out of your own way. So grab your favorite card deck, tarot or oracle, and do my little 3-card practice, ego versus heart. So the first card that you're going to pull is the ego story. What is it that the ego is telling you that's having you cling? And you might find that what you're clinging to isn't actually what you thought. Maybe you are clinging to your smallness. Maybe you're resisting putting yourself out there because it feels safer to stay small. Now, you can always pull 2 cards for this. We could call it card 1A and card 1B, because you could do card 1A being what you consciously are aware of, so what you know is happening, and then what's going on in the unconscious mind. And that is always eye-opening and heart-opening. And spend some time with this. Don't rush through the ego story because you think, oh, I already know what it's the loudest voice. I already know what it's saying. Instead, let yourself sit with it, because you might even find, when I do this, sometimes I'm like, I'm so ridiculous. Like, let's get going. Let's move forward. Okay, so sit with it. Then card number 2 is the heart's knowing, your intuition, what your soul is whispering. And again, don't rush this. Sit with it. I would even invite you to leave the guidebook in the box and let your heart truly interpret what the card is saying. And then card number 3, the way forward. I don't think that we should just be pulling cards and not actually doing anything to get out of our own way. So this next card, card number 3, is all about finding that one next step that you need to take in order to accept and start out on this new journey, to receive the fresh start and beginning that is coming your way and is going to be amazing. So that is what I have for you this week. If you do my card spread, I would love if you shared it with me. You can tag me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm at Lightworker Karen. You can send me an email. My email is info@KarenMonaco.com. But I would just so love to see your cards, to feel what's coming up for you, or to hear what's coming up for you, and feel you move into alignment with collective energy so you can flow and not force. I love you so much. I am so grateful to be able to share this forecast with you this week. And I look forward to seeing what happens when I step into next week's forecast and how our energy has shifted. I love you. Have a beautiful week and many, many, many full moon blessings. Bye.